We are extraordinarily grateful to Bob Schieffer, CBS News chief Washington correspondent, the anchor of Face the Nation, who is joining us now from Paris with his reaction. Bob, I can't imagine your feelings tonight. Please just tell me what you thought, what you heard.
Well, I was devastated and stunned. Tim and I, in addition to being head-to-head competitors, had become very close friends, oddly enough, over the years. Tim just loved news, Keith. He loved politics most of all, and it was infectious. I remember last year he was saying to me, we had seats together at the Nationals ballpark. We sat, our seats were next to one another, so we saw each other a lot at the ball games. He's a great baseball fan, but he was talking, he said, can you believe this campaign we're all about to cover? I mean, he was like a kid at Christmas, and that's why it was so much fun to be around him, and why, quite frankly, why I'm going to miss him so much. I mean, Tim, in a funny kind of way, had become sort of part of my life. I feel like with him gone, that I've lost a part of my life here. It's very hard to describe right now.
This is such a business of conflict and such a business of competition, and yet I always gathered from working with him, having the privilege of doing that, and every time I've ever used the word privilege, I feel like I should have saved it just for this occasion, rather than wasted it on the other ones. But that sense of conflict and competition didn't seem to be there, and I gather that's true from what you're saying, that this was, I guess what I'm getting at, I suppose you could never have been mad at him for getting a guest you really wanted first, because it was Tim.
No. And you know, when I stole one from him, when I put one past Russert, I felt like I hit a home run off the best pitcher in the league, Keith. I mean, that's the way that was. And let me tell you something. It always delighted him when he scooped me. We had that kind of a relationship. But the other part of it was, he had such a respect for what we do and such a respect for the news that when you beat him on that rare occasion when I would, he'd tip his hat and go on to the next one. I mean, it was never, you know, you must have gotten lucky, or you never heard any grousing about it. He just loved the news, and he knew he was going to get me the next time. And so, you know, he'd say, good get there, and go on to something else. We really were good friends. I know you're a great baseball fan, and when the Fort Worth Cats, the minor league ball club in my hometown, Keith, gave me a bobblehead doll and had a bobblehead Bob night, when I returned to Washington, on my desk was a little box. I opened it up, and there was a bobblehead doll of Tim Russert with a little note, just want you to know I have one too. The Buffalo team had given him one.
Of course.
He was some kind of guy, I tell you.
Do you concur with this, that there was something he managed to inject into this process, this not just Sunday morning political talk, but in fact our coverage as television has changed so markedly in the last 20 years, something that he did that reinvigorated this entire process on Sunday morning, that allowed to varying degrees he and you and George Stephanopoulos to essentially set the table for the week. Do you know what that was? What did Tim bring that seemed to energize that whole genre again? Well,
Tim asked the right questions, and the reason he asked the right questions is because he did this prodigious research. He always came prepared. He did his homework for the interviews. Tim made the person being interviewed the center of attention. And it was because he asked the good questions. I've said this before, is he never tried to get people to say something they didn't mean to say. He was trying to trip somebody up. He was trying to get them to say exactly what they meant. He wanted to know exactly what was on their mind, and then he asked them questions about it to see if it would stand up to hard questioning. I think Tim not only made journalism better, Keith, I think he probably made politics better, because he played no favorites. He was not partisan. He was a registered independent. He had worked for Democrats during the days when he was in politics, but he put that all aside, and he was driven by getting the story and getting to the truth, which is what journalism is supposed to be about. And when we concentrate on that, we do just fine. It's when we kind of complicate that that we all seem to get into trouble. But Tim knew the object was to get the truth, and he was just the best at getting it.
Bob Schieffer, one last question, and then we'll let you go with our thanks and our condolences in this very great, sad time. Do you agree? Barbara Walters said that we may be to some degree underappreciating the importance of this, that this is an extraordinary shock at NBC, at CBS, at ABC, at CNN, throughout the news business, throughout the political world, throughout the Washington world. But we're forgetting how impact, or what sort of impact this will have on the country, that we've lost an asset and millions of people have lost someone who is akin to a personal friend.
Well, Tim was the best of the best. He was the best of our profession. I think he's someone that all of us can be proud of. He set a wonderful example. And Keith, I don't want to overlook one other thing. The wonderful relationship, and my heart goes out to his father. My heart goes out to his wife and to his son. But he had such a wonderful relationship as we approached this Father's Day with his dad. He wrote the book, Big Russ, about his dad. And I just feel so bad for his dad at this particular time. No son loved a father more than Tim Russert loved his dad. And I think that probably the reverse of that was true also.
Bob Schieffer of Face the Nation and CBS News, kind enough to step in front of the cameras for us tonight from Paris. And as I said, sir, our condolences to you as well. Thank you, Bob.
Well, thank you very much, Keith.